We work twice as hard to get, twice as less as our counterparts, right?
In 2017, Power reignited the name Larenz Tate. Councilman Rashad Tate emerged suave, ageless, sharp to the point of being chilling. Hollywood was stunned. Audiences exploded. But behind the camera flashes, behind the glittering red carpets, hid a secret few dared to name. Projects vanished without explanation. Interviews buried deep in oblivion. Whispers from backstage. For years, Larenz Tate was locked in silence by Hollywood itself, a system that once celebrated him only to turn its back as if he had never existed. Larenz Tate was not born ready-made for the spotlight. He was born on September 8, 1975 in Chicago into a working-class African-American family. His parents, Peggy and Larry Tate, had left the South in search of better opportunities in the North. But instead of promises fulfilled, they encountered the darker shadows of poverty and urban violence. When Larenz was just 4 years old, the family moved to California. Yet the California dream was far from sweet. In the early 1980s, South Los Angeles was drowning in crack smoke gang wars and unemployment. His parents worked themselves to exhaustion to keep their children away from the streets, but the shadows of that neighborhood always hovered around Tate. From an early age, he knew what it meant to go without. There were nights when dinner was nothing more than a few slices of bread and a shared carton of milk. He and his two brothers, Laren and Lamard, took turns wearing the same winter coat. But out of poverty came one salvation art. Peggy Tate's mother believed that if her sons didn't see a world beyond the streets, they would lose their future. She pushed all three boys into acting classes at the Inner City Cultural Center, a place that would later become the cradle for an entire generation of Black Hollywood actors. And there, Larenz Tate found his escape. Turning point. In 1985, at just 10 years old, Tate appeared in a few TV shows like The Twilight Zone and The Cosby Show. But off-screen, he was still the kid mocked for being poor, for wearing hand-me-down clothes, for not having expensive sneakers. Tate often wore torn secondhand outfits, hiding his shame behind a smile. Few people know there was a time Tate almost quit acting. He was frustrated at being cast as extras, the nameless black kid number 3. But his brother Laren pulled him back. Laren told him, "One day you'll land a role the whole world will remember. But you have to endure first." And that role did come, but it carried with it a hidden curse, something that would force Tate's career to forever wrestle between light and shadow. Menace II Society. The storm breaks. In 1993, at just 17, Larenz Tate hit the big screen in Menace II Society and instantly became the center of pop culture. His role as O-Dog, the reckless, cold-blooded street teen, wasn't just a character, it became an icon. Entertainment Weekly called O-Dog the most terrifying young villain since De Niro's Travis Bickle. The New York Times declared Larenz Tate didn't just act, he became O-Dog. With just one film, Tate was elevated into the ranks of must-watch faces of a new generation. He landed on multiple most promising actors lists, hailed as a symbol of a bold new wave in black cinema. O-Dog showed up on posters and cultural think pieces about street life, even in rap lyrics of the 1990s. Tate's triumph in Menace II Society opened a door few black actors had ever reached. He could have been an A-list star, a true leading man rather than a supporting face. For black audiences, Tate was living proof that they could finally see themselves on screen, raw, fierce, unfiltered. But that glory came with a trap. O-Dog was too powerful, too haunting so much, so that Hollywood didn't want to see Tate in any other form. Directors and producers kept handing him the same formula: the street kid, the violent stare, the cold-blooded menace. In a 1995 interview, Tate admitted bluntly, people loved O-Dog, but they didn't want to see Larenz. They wanted the stereotype. It wasn't just a personal frustration, it was an indictment of Hollywood itself. A system quick to praise black talent, but only as long as it fit neatly into the stereotype they wanted to preserve. For Tate, Menace II Society was both the launchpad that made him a young legend and the invisible chain that locked him into the endless bad boy mold. The pinnacle of his early career was also the beginning of Hollywood's cold shoulder. The mysterious disappearance years after Menace II Society, 1993, Larenz Tate was the hottest name in black cinema. The press crowned him the future of black film. Then came Dead Presidents 1995 and Love Jones 1997, 3 back-to-back hits that pushed Tate to the summit. Critics whispered that he was the heir to Denzel Washington. but just a few years later, the light went out. 1998. Why Do Fools Fall in Love hit theaters. Tate took on the challenging role of Frankie Lyman, hoping to carve a new legacy. But the film bombed at the box office, and suddenly Hollywood hesitated. 1999, 2002, a black hole. Tate all but vanished from the big screen. Minor roles, mid-tier projects, nothing that ignited. From the Black De Niro, he slipped into the forgotten face. 2003, he re-emerged with Vin Diesel in A Man Apart, a gritty action piece that also flopped. Reviews barely mentioned his name. 2004, irony struck. Crash won the Oscar for Best Picture, but Tate's role was so small he blurred into the crowd. The film went into history. He did not. 2006, A Glimmer of Hope, waterfront a TV drama with Tate in the lead. But after just a few episodes, it was abruptly canceled. Trade papers started calling it the Tate curse. Every project he touched seemed doomed. 2007, 2015, a chilling silence. Cameos in Rescue Me and House of Lies were all he had. No big films, no posters, no headlines. A star once celebrated now sank into the shadows. Fans asked each other, "Where is Larenz Tate?" The media softened it to career slowdown, but in the back rooms the whispers were darker. Contract secrets and backstage whispers. Hollywood isn't just red carpets. It's a maze of contracts, hundreds of pages, clauses sharp enough to suffocate a career without ever making the front page. For Larenz Tate, that maze became a set of chains. The golden contract, or a gilded trap. After Love, Jones, 1997. Tate became a studio darling. One major studio swooped in with promises, leading man roles, prestige projects, six-figure checks. On paper, it was gold. In reality, it was a cage. Because after a handful of projects, the studio shifted strategy. The films lined up for Tate were shelved. Others were canceled. And while they stopped handing him lead roles, the fine print locked him down. He couldn't freely accept work elsewhere without studio approval. His talent was intact, but his career was frozen. A former manager told Ebony Larenz didn't disappear. He was shelved. That's even worse. You sit, you wait, and no one calls your name. Another producer, speaking off record, whispered at a press roundtable, "He turned down the money, turned down the role." That's not how the game works. If you don't play, the game plays you. Love Jones sequel, The Unfinished Promise. In an interview with TV1's The Morning Hustle, Larenz Tate was suddenly asked, "When will Love Jones get a sequel?" The audience waited for good news, but Tate's answer dropped like a shock. "We talked about it. But Love Jones was a perfect moment. If we remake it, I don't want to destroy that perfection." A moment of silence followed. Fans had waited more than 2 decades to relive Darius and Nina. But Tate knew better than anyone some magic only happens once in a lifetime, and sometimes trying to bring it back is the very way to kill it. First Million, Glory and Fractures. In the same conversation, Tate revealed a secret he had never shared before his first $1 million contract. A golden milestone, seemingly the start of a new era. But he spoke with bitterness. "I could get that money, but they didn't really believe I deserved it. It felt like an experiment, not recognition. A $1 million deal that should have been a source of pride instead became a mirror reflecting a harsher truth. Hollywood can praise you with money, but deep down it still sees you as a test piece ready to be replaced at any moment." Dream role, the role that never came. Then Tate opened up about the role he always longed for, a historical figure, layered and complex, embodying both the tragedy and triumph of the Black experience in America. "I don't want to just be the guy with the gun or the angry black man," he said. "I want to tell bigger stories." It was a vow, but also the beginning of years when he was branded difficult. He refused the stereotype. He wouldn't play the same cookie-cutter roles. And Hollywood, which thrives on compliance, made him pay with silence. The truth revealed. When those words rang out, Tate's career came into focus with brutal clarity. Love Jones was a legacy, but also a shackle. The $1 million contract was glory, but also proof of disregard. The dream role was a drive, but also the thorn that kept him from favor. Larenz Tate told it all with a smile. But behind that smile lay an indictment of Hollywood, a system that can hand you the spotlight, yet just as quickly snuff it out if you dare to step outside the mold. He wasn't publicly destroyed. He wasn't splashed across tabloids and scandal. He was simply erased, punished in a way colder, subtler, and far more terrifying. The price of fame and the buried rumors. Hollywood loves to cheer when you step onto the stage, But behind the curtain, the price you pay is nothing like the glow of the spotlight. For Larenz Tate, that truth was not just rumor, he lived it. Peanuts, the truth about pay, in 2024 at the Building Wealth. Today for Tomorrow event, Larenz Tate dropped a revelation that stunned the entire room. The ageless man, always poised and polished, spoke about something few expected: money. From the very beginning, when I joined Power, I was paid peanuts. One word, peanuts, landed like thunder. It wasn't a metaphor. It was the truth, a paycheck so shockingly low it felt insulting. Tate's agent pushed back hard, calling it a disgrace to his career. But Tate still accepted. Why, he explained, I took it because that role spoke to my community. It meant more than the numbers. The statement sounded like a manifesto. Yet it also ripped open a much larger wound. Hollywood has long forgotten the true worth of black actors. On TV, once uncensored Tate had already admitted black actors are rarely seen as valuable. We're always undervalued. When the Peanut story surfaced, that confession was no longer theory, it was living proof. Think about it. Tate once shook America with Menace II Society. He became the face of black romance with Love Jones. A blazing talent, a respected figure. Yet even at the height of his career, Hollywood still treated him like he wasn't worth the check. This wasn't about one man. It was the system. A system that thrives on black energy but refuses to pay full value. A machine that builds glimmering spotlights while behind the scenes, it forces actors of color to take less and stay quiet. Audiences saw Councilman Larenz Tate powerful, calculated, commanding. But behind the curtain, Larenz Tate wore invisible shackles, underpaid contracts, unacknowledged worth. The moment he said peanuts in 2024 was the moment the mask slipped. The public was shocked. The press roared. Suddenly it was clear Larenz Tate wasn't just telling his own story, he was exposing a brutal truth. In Hollywood, black talent can be celebrated but rarely compensated. And that is Tate's paradox. A gifted actor, a cultural icon, yet also a living example of how an unjust system squeezes those it pretends to honor. For Tate, money and value never balanced. He accepted peanuts to get through the door, but in doing so, he revealed the ugly truth. In Hollywood, black excellence is applauded on stage but shortchanged in contracts. That is the tragedy and the legacy. Larenz Tate, one of the most respected talents of his generation, forced to stand as proof of how an entire system breaks the very people it once celebrated. This was never just Tate's story. It was the crack in the system, an exposed fault line Hollywood can no longer deny. Rumors and silence. Not only bitter confessions, but Tate's career has also been overshadowed by rumors buried in silence. In 2014, when Columbus Short abruptly exited the hit series Scandal, a wave of speculation crashed across Hollywood. Forums lit up. Fans celebrated. Headlines declared Larenz Tate will replace him. For a brief moment, it felt real Tate back in the spotlight of a primetime juggernaut. What happened? Why did a hot headline vanish so quickly? No one had an answer. But to longtime Hollywood observers, the story carried a familiar shadow. The machinery of silence, the machinery of roadblocks, where a rumor can be greenlit and then extinguished in the blink of an eye. Hidden conflicts. Hollywood seemed to love Larenz Tate. Yet behind the spotlight there was an unwritten contract no one ever admitted either conform to the mold or be cast aside. Tate chose the second path and he paid the price. Industry insiders said he flat out refused scripts filled with stereotypes: the junkie, the thug, the violent black man. Directors grew angry. Producers stayed silent. And then projects that once listed Tate's name in press releases suddenly vanished from the shooting schedule with no explanation. Rumors spread Larenz Tate is difficult to work with, but whispers behind the scenes told another story. Tate had clashed with a few big names, including powerful black directors. Some projects with Tyler Perry and other heavyweights were mysteriously abandoned midstream. Fans didn't believe it was coincidence. Then came 2020. In an interview with GQ, Tate no longer held back. Hollywood doesn't want multi-dimensional black characters. They only want the stereotype. I don't accept that. The words landed like a hammer blow to the system. To audiences, they made Tate a silent hero. But to Hollywood, they marked him as dangerous. Whispers began he had been blackballed, the entertainment industry's way of punishing an artist who dares to speak the truth. Larenz Tate, Hollywood's ageless man, not only keeps his career shrouded in mystery, but also guards his private life like a fortress. Love and secrets. Life behind the lights. In 2006, Tate officially married Thomasina Parrott, a striking dancer who had appeared in high-profile music shows. It wasn't a flashy Hollywood wedding, but a quiet vow following nearly 2 years of engagement. Since then, Thomasina and Tate have become one of Hollywood's most private couples. While peers faced messy affairs and public divorces, Tate and his wife virtually disappeared from the gossip radar. Yet that very silence only fueled public curiosity. What were they hiding 4 sons? Pressure inside paradise. The couple share 4 sons: Miles Xavier, 2006, Xander, 2008. Zion and their youngest, often referred to as son number 4. From the outside, it looks like a dream family, but within the pressures are real. In a rare confession, Tate admitted that he and his wife don't sleep in the same bedroom. "Why, I have to keep my distance. Otherwise, staring at her too long gets hard to control." A half-joking, half-serious remark, but one that immediately stirred speculation. Was this their way of keeping the marriage alive, or a glimpse of tensions they preferred not to reveal? Meanwhile, Thomasina, beyond her roles as wife and mother, quietly runs a bakery in California. She shoulders the family's daily life so Tate can remain under the spotlight. The public began to realize behind Tate's composed, polished presence on screen was a woman sacrificing much to keep their household steady. The fortress, a wall of silence. Unlike many stars who flaunt photos of their children on social media, Tate and Thomasina chose the opposite path. They almost never reveal their children's faces to the press. Tate once said, "When it comes to our kids, we keep everything as private as possible." This absolute secrecy has turned the Tate family into a forbidden zone of Hollywood. But their silence has also fueled endless speculation. Is Tate keeping his distance because the family is hiding problems? Or is he afraid scandal might shatter the carefully built image of the ageless man, love under pressure? Hollywood is littered with marriages that collapse within just a few years. But Tate and Thomasina have stood together for nearly 2 decades. They have not escaped rumors, whispers of conflict tension, and the heavy responsibility of raising 4 sons while Tate's career slowed. And yet in silence they proved their bond. No noise, no need to prove anything to anyone. The Tate family has chosen to survive by keeping just enough distance from Hollywood's whirlwind. In Hollywood, a star's value isn't measured only by roles, but by cold hard numbers: net worth. For Larenz Tate, the ageless man of power and the legend of Menace II Society, that number has become a subject of debate. Net worth, the price of fame. According to Hot New Hip Hop in 2024, Tate's net worth was estimated at around $4.5 million. Celebrity net worth, however, listed it at just $2.5 million. Meanwhile, Tatler pushed it higher, suggesting as much as $5 million. 3 numbers, 3 stories, and that very gap raises the question: how much is Larenz Tate really worth? The Calabasas home. From $485,000 to $2 million in August 1998, Tate bought a home in Calabasas, California, for just $485,000. At the time, it was a bold investment for a young actor still finding his footing in Hollywood. But like Tate's career, the property grew in value. Today its worth is estimated at $2 million, almost 4 times the original price. That Calabasas house isn't just a shelter. It's a symbol of perseverance. A man who entered Hollywood endured years of silence and still held on to his home and foundation. Cars and style. Rumor versus reality. Online whispers claim Tate owns flashy supercars, from a Lamborghini Huracan to high-end luxury rides, but none of it has ever been confirmed. And perhaps that's the truest reflection of who Tate is: private, understated, and unwilling to flaunt. Unlike many Hollywood stars, Tate doesn't turn his garage into a declaration of status. For him, lifestyle isn't about license plates, it's about presence. Always polished, always refined, always the ageless gentleman in the public eye. Family. Tate's fortress. If Hollywood once turned its back, family has always been the place that never betrayed Tate. Despite living in the spotlight, Tate almost never exposes his children's private lives. In the media, images of his family are rare. For Tate, privacy is his most precious asset. In an interview with TV One Uncensored 2020, Tate admitted, "For a marriage to last, you have to control your ego." That wasn't just pretty talk, it was his philosophy. In a Hollywood full of temptations, he chose to protect his home rather than trade it for scandal. True value, beyond the millions. Money can be measured, houses can be appraised. But for Tate, net worth isn't just in a bank account. He once made it clear, "I never got into this business to be famous. I want to be remembered for the work, for the journey, for the value, not for the flash." That's the difference. In a Hollywood that feeds on scandal, Tate has become a paradox, an actor who is quiet, who doesn't flaunt, yet still stays unforgettable through sheer consistency. Life today, from Hollywood lights to family peace, in 2025. Larenz Tate turned 50. For many stars, that milestone means fading away quietly, slipping into the background. But Tate is different. He crossed that line still carrying the aura of an ageless man, sharp polished with the same piercing eyes that once shook Hollywood. On his 50th birthday, Tate received a gift from his family, a vacation in Aruba. There, he let go of filming schedules, press junkets, and red carpets. All that remained were waves, a private pool, and dinners under tropical skies. In the island's sunsets, Tate found the quiet he had been denied by Hollywood for decades. Though Private Tate is still a powerful presence in culture. This year, he became the official ambassador of the American Black Film Festival, ABFF 2025. Not only did he walk the red carpet, he stood on stage as a protector and inspiration. ABFF is not just a place to screen films, he said. It's where we see ourselves. It's where Black stories are told in our own voices. The words landed like a declaration, bringing the entire audience to its feet. On social media, Tate appears just enough, smiling with his family, thanking fans, sometimes posting a short video revisiting the legacy of Love Jones or Power. But he always knows where to stop, keeping part of his world in silence. That silence is no longer the wound of being forgotten by Hollywood. It is strength, it is choice. Today, when Tate stands before an audience, he is not just an actor. He is a symbol. A man who has walked through fame and silence, arriving at a present where he lives for his craft, for his family, and for his community. Hollywood may have once turned away, but Larenz Tate still stands tall, proof that real light doesn't come from the flash of cameras. It comes from how a man chooses to live, to love, and to leave his mark. Legacy and influence. The Love Jones generation, and beyond. When people look back on Larenz Tate's career, three roles come to mind instantly. O-Dog in Menace II Society, 1993, Darius in Love Jones, 1997, and Councilman Rashad Tate in Power, 2017-2024. Three faces, three eras, but together they form a complete circle, from the storm of the streets, to the symbol of Black love, to the embodiment of political power on television. The Love Jones generation is where Tate's legacy truly began. That film wasn't just a romantic drama, it was a landmark moment that allowed Hollywood to portray Black love with honesty, intelligence, and passion. For audiences of the 1990s, it became the movie that defined how they saw love, and Tate became the face of it. 2 decades later, the lines, the glances, and the smile he gave in Love Jones are still shared, quoted, and replayed as cultural touchstones. But his legacy doesn't live only on screen. For Tate, his greatest influence lies in his refusal to compromise. He rejected the stereotypes Hollywood wanted to pin on Black actors. He chose to step away, to disappear for years, rather than betray his artistic integrity. That decision meant his career wasn't built on dozens of blockbusters, but it earned him respect. Tate became proof that sometimes strength isn't measured in numbers, but in principle. In recent years, through Power and his presence at community events, Tate has elevated his legacy even further. He hasn't only acted, he has spoken out for an entire generation of Black performers. He has addressed the unfair pay, the invisible walls that hold back actors of color. His words on TV, one uncensored and at the building wealth. Today for Tomorrow event echoed far beyond a role on screen. They became a voice for the countless talents still struggling in a Hollywood that has never been truly fair. And perhaps his deepest impact is in how he has upheld Black excellence. From his choice of roles to the way he presents himself publicly, to the way he guards his family and protects his privacy, Tate has become a case study for younger artists. You can succeed without selling yourself short. Larenz Tate leaves Hollywood with a profound question. Was he a talent held back, or a silent warrior who dared to challenge the system? The answer depends on perspective. But one truth is undeniable. His name is forever tied to memories, debates, and a cultural legacy that cannot be erased. Larenz Tate didn't just act in movies. He helped create a generation, a legacy, and a reminder that the true light of art can never be dimmed by time.
All data, analysis, and commentary in this video are presented based on information available at the time of production. The content is subject to change over time and should not be considered a definitive forecast. There is still so much more to explore: stories of resilience, legacy, and truth. Feel free to dive into some of our top recommended videos now appearing on your screen.